This is the DG Podcast, episode 91, part B. We have Rhett, Lindsay, and myself, Jason.
Chance, can I just say, you do the nicest things some days, and then other days you're just a piece of crap.
What is it this time?
He's trying to perpetuate this idea that I'm a brony for some reason. And it's like he knows he's doing it, but he'll send me, like, he'll get a game for a couple bucks where out here I either can't find it or it's like 10 or 15.
Right.
And he'll find the game. He found me like ice hockey and stuff. And he sends it, he sent The Little Mermaid, and on the package it says, Rhett, in quotes, the Brony Peterson. Like, nobody knew, like, that I was a brony. But the thing is, he ordered it through Amazon, so the guy he ordered it through put in quotes, the brony in between. Like it was my, like, implied title or something.
That's
and I told that to Chance, and he laughed, and he said that was worth it just because it pissed me off. It's almost like how would you say? It's almost like Sideshow Bob.
Uh-huh.
Sideshow Bob is funny where Sideshow Mel is not, and the reason why Sideshow Bob is funny is Sideshow Bob has respect. So he looks unhappy when crap happens to him. That's why Sideshow Bob is so funny. It's because he literally looks unhappy when he gets hit in the face with a pie. Mm-hmm. That's why Chance likes it, because he knows that I'm not happy about it.
I loved when he was walking across the lawn, and basically it was all rakes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
That's literally the noise I make when I get junk from Chance. It's like, oh, thank you.
It was pretty funny. You posted a picture on my Facebook today of two horses actually, like, bro-fisting. And I was like, oh, that's cool. Bro-fist, you know. And Chance right below it says, yeah, Rhett the Brony Peterson. So it's like all of everybody that I know now knows.
Dang it. First of all, I'm not a brony. I despise bronies, but Chance is just going to keep this narrative going for as long as he can get away with it.
Well, anything new to report?
Chance, so that he knows, because it took forever to get here, I did actually get the controllers he sent, and a couple of games he got. I played ice hockey, and I'll let everybody know that yes, the Soviet Union did win. That would be not so bad if I was playing as the Soviet Union, but I was the USA. And it looks like the 1984 Olympics did not turn out the way that we all hoped it would.
Nice. Very nice.
They're literally giving their guys steroids, and I guarantee you they are
bribing the judges,
paying off the refs.
Yeah. Rhett told me that he received the game, and I thought, and asked me if I remembered it, and I thought back, and I said, isn't that one where you have the skinny guy and the fat guy? And yeah, that's the one. The fat guy took forever to get anywhere because he's so slow.
Darn right. That's where all that Russian money goes into their training. If you remember, Dolph and his big training regimen,
right?
He's all in there with, like, the really high-tech equipment. And for some reason...
Rocky beats him by running through the snow.
Yeah, for some reason, Rocky goes out in the snow, and he's, like, carrying logs and stuff, and he still beats him with all that high-tech, like, Soviet equipment.
Yeah.
If I could change, you can change.
Anything new with you, Lindsay?
We all can change.
It's spring break, and I haven't done anything, which is actually really great. I played some video games. I played Arkham City yesterday for a bit, which is a really fun game. But it's been so long since I played, and I was going through Freeze's place and trying to get him, and it was really difficult trying to do a boss fight when you haven't played for so long, and that whole game is built around, like, basically sneaking up on him and whatnot, and it just... Well, needless to say, it just didn't go very well for me, and after a while, I I switched to something else. I played a game. It's called I Made Zombies. I made a game with zombies in it, which
I love that game.
It's so much fun, but it's like
That's a funny game.
Jason, I think, beat it with me.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, we played that one.
The story about that game is great because this guy programmed it as sort of just a top-down shooter. And he did all the programming. He even wrote the music for it. And he sings throughout the song.
Which isn't too bad considering it was, he did the music for it.
The music is terrible, but it's hilarious.
I love the
because
music. It's one of my favorite. My favorite part of it is I made a game with zombies in it. It's only $1. I hope you buy it.
Yeah. Literally, the song he made is "Please buy my game. It's only $1."
It's so good.
You can't find that on the Xbox Live store anymore, but I still have it on my 360. So
that's funny.
I still have it, and I bought it back then. But now it says it's like, oh, your trial or something has ended, and it's telling me I got to spend another $1 to buy it. But when I went to buy it, it wouldn't go through. So
no, I bought it. It shouldn't be a trial. Last time I played it was probably 6 months ago, but it seemed fine.
Yeah, this is just one I played recently. It told me your trial or whatever ran out, and it did make sense because I've had this game for years on my Xbox.
The guy literally got, I think, like a couple $1 million for that thing. He deserves it though. It was fun.
It's a really fun game, and it's basically like how do I describe it? Is it the old game of Galaga or whatever, where you have this ship and the asteroids that fly around?
Were you logged into Xbox Live at the time?
I think so, yeah.
Because I noticed that, I have a bunch of games a bunch. I have a couple games, Castle Crashers being one of them. And if my kids can get to them because they're on the Xbox, but unless I'm logged in and I start the game, it only starts the demo version for my kids. Because I bought it with my account. And so if I'm not logged in, they can only play the demo version.
Maybe.
Which is kind of annoying considering it's like, I bought it.
Yeah, I don't know. Because I don't think I bought it on that account. It's just on my Xbox. Maybe that's it.
Well, that might be it. If you didn't buy it with that account, it might not recognize that you own it.
Yeah. I got Castlevania on there, and I forgot I had it on there. But it's like, I was thinking about that, and I should play that.
I'm currently playing Mario 3.
Yeah, I was sitting there listening to you play it while we were waiting for Lindsay. And at one point I said, I heard the noise come through your computer and said, 1-up. Because it was I could hear you get your 1-up there.
I'm always bad at lining up the colors at the very end, or at least the shapes. It's like you get the mushroom and the flower and junk, and I always get 3 opposite items.
Right.
So I'll only get the 1-up, but what can you do?
Well, I've been actually reading a lot lately.
Gotrek and Felix?
Gotrek and Felix. I finished, actually, Road of Skulls, which was kind of interesting. I told you about it. I don't remember if I talked on the podcast, but, Gotrek is a slayer, and his whole purpose in life is to die in the most spectacular way possible while doing the greatest good. To atone for a misdeed in the past. The thing is that there's a prophecy that was given to a priest by a priest of Grimnir. It came from Grimnir himself. Wow. And it said that if Gotrek went to this place, he would meet his doom, and it would doom the rest of the world too.
So Gotrek's like, oh man, I can't die, because everybody's going to get screwed.
Yep, but he's still trying to figure out how to work his way around it. It was kind of funny.
Isn't it Grimnir's axe he's carrying?
Yeah. But there was, and then there's a bunch of short stories I read. There was one where it's called Bloodsport. He gets into this arena to fight a hippogriff, but what he does instead is...
if he's in there.
What was that?
Nobody's got a chance if he's in there.
Well, the thing is that it doesn't go according to the plan of the organizers. What he does is instead he gets on the hippogriff's back. It tries to fly up from the arena floor to get him off of it, and they've got this net stretched over the top so it can't escape. Well, Gotrek slices through the net and releases it and drops back down to fight the the event organizers. Because he says everyone should be free to find their own doom.
Fun.
There was actually one where he was about to start a brawl when the bartender said, no, you can't do that in here, and basically pointed guns at everybody. And he's like, fine, we'll start a drinking competition. And there were like 8 guys, and the drinking contest was he had to match them pint for pint. So he had to match, they tricked him, basically, is what it was, and they said, okay, the first guy drank a pint, Gotrek drank a pint. The next guy drank a pint, Gotrek had to drink a pint. It wasn't like they all had to drink. Yeah,
but Gotrek doesn't actually really get drunk. Like, it takes barrels of stuff for him to finally actually feel it.
Well, they finally run out of beer. And there's 2 guys left.
They thought they were tricking him, and then he's still standing there like, what?
Yeah, exactly. He's standing there going, bring on more beer. There's 1 guy left. And the bartender's like, I can't. You drank all my beer. And and so he then starts a brawl. It's like, well, if I can't get drunk, well, then I'm going to start a fight. Oh, but anyway, the other thing is that I mentioned to Rhett a while back that I was interested in this. Well, I'd watched this Russian movie called Solaris.
You got to be careful with those Russian movies.
Yeah, the thing is that it was a real artsy movie. It's supposed to be really good and stuff, but they did these weird things like this little boy walks up to this little girl and says hi, and then she gets this funny like smirk on her face, and they zoom in tight on her, and it's like 10 seconds before she says hi back. I'm like, what are you doing?
That's like a French film.
Yeah, but Russian, so it was, depressing.
It's true. It's true.
Well, it reminded me that I had wanted... I don't really like subtitles, because I like to do other things while I'm watching movies. And so, this one had subtitles, and I broke down and I finally saw it. And there's actually George Clooney did a recent version of this movie. It's supposed to be this sci-fi movie and everything. And, well, it reminded me that I'd wanted to see these other 2 movies called Night Watch and Day Watch. Also Russian films, both of those based on books. And at the time when I first heard about them, I didn't realize that they were, that there wasn't a dubbed version. There was only subtitled, so I didn't see them at the time. I watched Solaris. It reminded me of it. I went and I found them. I watched them both, and I was sitting there watching them and going, wait a minute, that's not in the book, that's not in the book, that's not in the book. Doing my thing. The thing is it was enjoyable and everything, but I was looking for other information about the movies and was scratching my head going, are we thinking about the same movie? Because the first one, they called it a vampire movie. And vampires
are... into that.
What was that?
Lindsay be into that.
Hey,
well, the thing is that they're not really
probably
vampire movies. There are vampires in it.
They're around, but they're not, like, doing stuff.
Yeah, like, the thing is that the movie's about this guy named Anton, who, is what they call an other, and he belongs to the light side. And he also is a member of the Night Watch. And the Night Watch was established to make sure that, the dark others didn't break this treaty that they had.
Is it like a underworld sort of scenario?
Kind of.
Like the peace has been existed forever with the Lycans until it was broken, and now there's super war.
Yeah. Well, the thing is that there was super war before that, and both the light and the dark realized that if things kept going the same way, they would both exterminate each other. And so they established this truce, and the thing is that they then established the Night Watch and the Day Watch. The Night Watch watched over the dark others and made sure they obeyed the treaty, and the Day Watch watched over the light others and made sure they obeyed the treaty. And so there are vampires.
Oh yeah, you told me about this. This is the Romeo and Juliet scenario.
Well, not exactly. There's...
Yeah. No, it is. You got the Capulets and the Montagues. And
well, kind of, but they don't actually go back. There's not like one on either side. It's not like this Anton guy falls in love with a Daywatch girl.
He might as well.
He actually does fall in love with a girl, but she's another Nightwatch agent. The thing is that, they called it a vampire movie, and there are vampires in it. They're just dark others. And, Anton actually lives next door to one of them. But it's like...
Wakes up in the morning, waves at him when he leaves for the day. Guy standing there sucking somebody's blood.
Yeah. Something like that.
It's like, hey, how's it going? Oh,
yeah.
Good.
But
I just killed your other neighbor.
The second one, the Daywatch movie, it said that, according to IMDb, the movie is about this guy who obtains an artifact that could save post-apocalyptic Russia. Well, the thing is that...
Russia is perpetually post-apocalyptic. I don't know what they're trying to get at.
That's true. But
they're always trying to recover from some sort of disaster that is Russia.
The funny thing is that there is this...
If you're Russian and you listen to this podcast, I don't feel bad.
Well, they're probably listening to it in the United States, so they don't feel bad either. The IMDb says that it's about this post-apocalyptic thing, and they have this artifact that could erase this. Well, the thing is that this apocalypse doesn't happen until the end of the movie. So it's not post-apocalyptic Russia. They are trying to find this artifact because it's very powerful. And I'm sitting there going, that's not in the movie. Well, that's not in the book. Well, it turns out it is in the book. But Nightwatch and Daywatch, the movies, are like based on the first book, and that's it.
And like, some guy decided he was going to write a book and loosely base it off of the world or whatever.
Yeah. And it's kind of funny because there's Nightwatch, Daywatch, and Twilight Watch in this book series. and the movies are only based off like the first book in the series. And they do this weird thing where Anton, when he was younger, he tried to hire a witch to make his wife left him, and he wanted her to come back to him, and she deceived him by saying that she was carrying another man's child, and she would have to abort it by magic, otherwise she would go back with the other guy.
That's because you can't trust witches.
Right.
And it doesn't matter how many times you've seen the movie or watched anything, witches will always come in two types. Always deceiving, always trying to screw with you, or I'm not really a witch, I'm kind of a Wiccan. Just to make you think that, like, not all witches are bad, and they're, like, just hanging out in the forest and hugging trees and stuff.
Right.
But really, they're not witches. Witches ride broomsticks and look like scary hags.
Exactly. So anyway, there's this boy in the movie that almost gets killed by the vampires at the beginning, and it turns out that the Night Watch stepped in and saved his son's life. It turns out that this kid is actually his son, and he's this really powerful warlock basically now. And because of all the stuff that happened, and because they deceived his father into trying to kill him, he goes over to the bad side.
Yeah.
And of course, you're sitting there on the other side watching this movie going, okay, and they like force him to tell the truth, that he really did try to kill his son. And he says yes, but then they don't say, but we're the ones that manipulated him into doing it. And of course, he doesn't say anything about that either. And I'm just going, really? That's the best you can come up with? This book is great. Why are you doing this? Anyway.
I read the first Metro book that came out, Metro 2033, and then I read Metro 2034. No, I tried to get a hold of a book, but they didn't have any translations. Apparently they have a translation now, but they're Russian books. It's like post-apocalyptic Russia, and I really enjoyed the books. And incidentally, they made video games out of them. But I read I read the first one and it was really good. The translation wasn't great. The second book that had a translation was terrible, and it was practically unreadable. It's like some guy just sort of translated on his own. Yeah, and he mostly spoke Russian and not very good English.
Now, what I want to ask here is, what movies out there are based on books that have decent renderings of them into film?
Lord of the Rings would be too easy.
And questionable.
Lindsay probably read Twilight, I'm guessing.
No.
Oh,
I think I read maybe the first book, because it was like one of those things that it came out in high school or something, and it was a big thing. And I was like, well, I'll see or whatnot. And I read it, and it was okay, but I didn't actually care for it because I thought it was basically really overdone, and it didn't make sense. It was kind of like the relationships jumped from one place to the next way too quick. And the whole time I questioned, I was like, isn't he kind of like a crazy old man super stalker? Like,
no, it is without a doubt, pedophilia.
Yeah.
Like, it's okay because he looks old? Come on. Woo!
Yep. Well, yeah, it's pretty messed up.
I beat the first big castle, and I turned the king back from a dog.
Nice.
Just so everybody knows what's going on.
Turn the king back from a dog?
The king was a dog. I turned him from a dog into what looks like a sultan.
Each level, the king gets turned into something because one of Koopa's kids has stolen his scepter or the wand or whatever.
Yeah, right. I wasn't aware of what you were talking about for a second. I didn't know you were still playing.
You need to be more interested in the things I'm doing.
The really weird, funny thing is there's a Powerpuff Girls game out there, and for some reason the mayor gets turned into a dog, and then the Powerpuff Girls turn him back. And I don't know why, but that popped into my mind when you said that.
Of course it did.
Yeah.
Movies, it's hard to say. Because I don't frequently have read the book as well as the movie, as well as seen the movie, you know what I mean?
Right.
It's like frequently I'll see the movie but not have read the book, or I'll read the book and not actually get to see a movie for it.
Right. And, there are some
Lord
that
of the Rings is easy. Return of the King is probably the best of the translations of Tolkien stuff.
Probably, yeah.
I mean, the thing got like 13 Academy Awards. It
Very
tied
true.
for Ben-Hur and Titanic.
I
Lindsay,
don't know.
anything?
I found some movies that they
Harry
say.
Potter?
What was that?
I don't know.
Harry Potter, maybe?
Well,
yeah,
Harry
maybe.
Potter, you're starting with stuff that's not that great anyway.
Basically.
And so, the movies were okay.
Well, I'm not trying to defend it. I'm just asking for somebody who might have read the book and was really into it.
Well,
I hate Harry Potter.
I read a lot of
I hate his
manga
doofy
turned
little
into anime.
freaking lightning bolt on his doofy little head.
What was that about anime?
I said I read a lot of manga that gets turned into anime, but I would say those are usually done a little bit better. Although one of my favorite manga series, which is it's like a really cutesy one, but I actually ended up really liking it after I kind of got farther along into it, is Rosero Vampire. But the anime, I absolutely hate it. I tell everybody it's terrible. I'm like, don't watch it. It's stupid. It's basically just the harem girls that fall in love with like one guy, and they constantly chase him, and they just want him to fall in love with them.
That's that classic anime trope.
Yeah, it's so stupid. And the manga does that a little bit, but not nearly as much. It's more focused on like basically the world is kind of ending, and they're trying to like stop it from happening. And it's a lot better in that way, but
you ever notice that, Jason?
What's
Where
that?
the guy in anime has a harem of just ladies that are super obsessed with him, but he's usually like clueless and doesn't know what's going on, and then he gets really weirded out when they get really like attached to him. He's like, "What are you doing? Get away!"
It's
from
like
me."
the other way. Like there's this one. I don't remember what it's called now. He has the harem, but he's only really interested in one of the girls, and that girl's interested in him as well. But
Sword Art Online does that.
And there's always misunderstandings because he's like the caretaker at a girls' dorm. I forget what it is. Anyway, I was looking at this list, and Blade Runner pops up. Lord of the Rings. I never read
Blade Runner. I can't speak for that. The movie, people overpraise and underpraise that movie.
Yes.
And that's going to sound weird, but the movie is always seen as like the perfect form of sci-fi. It's not that great.
Well, see, the thing is, I've read the book. The book is Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep?
Yeah, you've talked about it.
And I've seen the movie, and they're very different. I mean, there's the same kind of elements in there and things, but like in the movie, he's a loner, and this is Harrison Ford's character, Deckard, and in the book, he's married, and he starts to have this affair with this girl who turns out to be a replicant, and in the movie, he like finds out and he runs away with her at the end, trying to keep her away from other bounty hunters and stuff. In the book, he jilts her and goes back to his wife, and she shows up at his house and throws his really expensive sheep off the roof.
Because sheep are precious in that world.
Well, no, what it is
it's a status symbol to have an original animal.
Yeah, to have,
because most of the animals are dead.
Yeah. And
I think you've talked about this on the podcast.
He goes out and he buys this sheep that's, a living, breathing sheep rather than a robot. Yeah, it's kind of funny. And then he goes out in the desert and he finds this toad out there. And he comes back kind of half crazed. And it turns out the toad's a robot. Just living out in the desert.
No! I thought it was a legit toad.
That's a bummer. God damn.
Well, they don't tell him.
Robots.
It's like his wife figures out that it's actually a robot or something, and he's like in the other room for a lie down.
Man, you and your weird books you read.
Yeah, I know.
Can I just say, I saw both Exodus, Gods and Kings, and I saw the new Noah movie, and they're both just terrible. The Exodus movie was better, but still got it wrong. The Noah movie was just vomiting bad. And I don't say vomiting bad that much, but it was vomiting bad. Like, it was really, really bad. And it's one of the... Everybody criticized Christians for getting all up in arms because not only was the writer and director the same guy, an atheist, but he also sort of like spoke contemptibly of the source material and that sort of thing. The best example I found was it's like if somebody wrote a Holocaust movie and they were a Nazi.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like you don't understand it from their perspective, and not being a Christian or really respecting the source material and then changing a lot. Clearly a lot of people are going to have problems with it. And he gets out, he's all like confused as to why everybody's upset. He's like, this is a movie I wanted to make. He's like, really? You make a movie about a religious figure, and not only do Christians, Jews, and Muslims have a problem with it, but it's bad? Come on.
That's funny that Christians, Jews, and Muslims all have problems
Muslims
with it.
actually banned it from their countries.
That's
because
so
it
funny.
was disrespectfully portraying a prophet of God.
That's the funny thing. It's like, if you want to make a religious movie, I don't care if you're of that faith, or an atheist, or you're making a Christian movie and you're Buddhist. The thing is that when you sit down to do that movie, you've got to understand that that there's gonna be a religious backlash against you if you do it wrong.
Look, I accept the fact they have to change some things. The only thing I say is, if you do something in the movie it has to be sort of in the book.
Right. Especially if it's a religious
Other than that,
movie.
if you add or change anything, just keep to the theme of what was going on in the book.
Right.
Otherwise, I don't care. I accept the fact that you have to change some things. The whole Noah story is very small by comparison. It's only a few pages, really.
Right.
How much... clearly, you have to add some things. But Noah goes, like, crazy, and he tries to kill, like, the kids and stuff.
Yeah, because Noah was all about killing kids.
No. See, here's the thing. Noah felt that God was destroying mankind because clearly mankind at about whatever zero negative number it's apparently supposed to be, BC, mankind were destroying everything, and Noah was a super environmentalist. Like, the first thing that happens in the movie is these guys are out there hunting because they're starving, and they kill an animal, and Noah gets all pissed off, and he kills the guys, and because they're on his land or whatever.
Oh my god!
He goes over and he gets upset because there's this dead animal, and his sons go over and they wrap it lovingly, and then they set like a funeral pyre, and the kids are like, "Why would they kill it?" And he's like, "Well, they kill it to eat it." And he was like, "Why would they do that?" I'm like, really?
You know,
You're
Moses probably had a
people kill
barbecue
animals?
every weekend.
Because the whole message that Aronofsky is trying to get across is that apparently Noah's whole job in the entire book was to keep track. Mankind's job was to take care of all the animals, not necessarily, like be their keeper and make sure all of the plants are like well kept or something.
We're supposed to be zookeepers basically, and not actually eat them.
Yeah, and so like he has to build the ark, but instead of even just building the ark, like there's these giant rock monsters that help him build the ark that are apparently fallen angels. No, I kid you not, they're giant rock monsters, and they look like they're made from claymation. They're that bad. Like a multi-million-dollar movie, and they look like they're made from claymation. And they help him build the ark, and all of this stuff is going on. He's like, oh, we got to do this, this, and this. And like the evil guys that are like sons of Cain or something. This is how bad it is. When the evil human beings start spreading across the earth, literally as they're walking, the grass is dying. So human beings are the blight on the planet. Like everywhere they go, and it's like they make industry, and like the guy like invents an early gun or something. It's like, oh, you horrible people. And it's like Noah refuses to have any weapons or whatever. And
oh my god. That's the most environmental piece of crap I've ever heard of.
Oh no, the guy has an agenda. Across the board has an agenda. Now, what's the most stupid and disgusting part? Is because I'm not going to review the whole movie. Is you get to this moment in the movie where Noah accepts the fact that God's doing all this because mankind are terrible. They did a bad job. He's hitting the reset button. Mankind are the ones that are causing all the problems. All of mankind should die. So Noah's like, well, if all mankind should die, it's going to die with us. They pick up this girl that's Shem's, ends up being Shem's wife. I can't remember what her name is biblically.
Uh-huh.
But she was like barren in the beginning, and Methuselah like gives her a blessing and makes her so she's not barren. And they have a kid, and Noah finds out, and they're on the ark, right?
Uh-huh.
And Noah finds out, and he freaks out, and he's like, if it's a girl and we can propagate the species, then I'm going to kill your children. Why? Because God wants all men to die. Not because God told him, but because Noah just feels like that's what God wants him to do. So he goes on like this drunken tirade, and it's like he's the bad guy all of a sudden, and they're all trapped in the boat with him, and he's walking around like it's like they're living in a cage with a lion, and you've got that sense of like he's just stalking around like, I'm gonna kill somebody, you know what I mean? And the babies are born, and she has twins, and they're both girls, and he's like, oh, I'm gonna kill them, and he ends up sort of having this like, oh, I couldn't do it. And everything's said and done at the very end, because biblically Noah gets all drunk and depressed, and they have to go cover him up because he's like lying on the beach naked.
Right.
And they go find him, And he gets all drunk, but in the movie they interpret it as Noah gets drunk and upset because he failed God because he allowed mankind to exist.
Oh my gosh.
Because he couldn't kill the babies. And he's like, well, God wanted me to kill the babies. He's like, I couldn't kill the babies, so I'm going to be all depressed and drunk all the time now that we're all saved. And the moral of the story comes not from God's prophet, but from Hermione Granger, who walks over and gives him the maybe God loves all of the peoples, or you know what I mean? Sort of like that stupid God love thing sort of story. And you're like, this is so bad. like Exodus, Gods and Kings, and this is a movie review. This is not a religious thing. I'm reviewing literally a movie that they're making. Exodus, Gods and Kings got closer to being a decent movie, but it made some huge problems. First of all, Noah spends all his time arguing with God. Like, Noah literally...
Because that's what the prophets do.
Yeah, Noah's literally like, oh, I'm not going to do that because I don't agree with you, or whatever. And then God's like, well, I'm just going to cause all these plagues and crap. And because he's like, well, I need a general. Do
you mean Moses?
Moses. I'm skipping between two biblical figures, excuse me. Moses was like a general or whatever for the Pharaoh. And he's like, I need a general to help free my people. And Moses is like, okay. And so he goes and does stuff. And Moses is like, I'm unhappy with you. He's like, well, it's going to take time. And he's like, well, that's going to take years. He's like, well, what do you expect from me? You got a general. And he's like, well, why don't you sit back and watch and I'm going to do it. And I was like, okay. And so he starts just screwing over Egypt in every way possible. Like all the plagues start coming down and everything goes to hell. And Ramses doesn't come across as a bad guy. Moses kind of comes across as the bad guy. Ramses, they spend a lot of time trying to make you relate to him. Like Ramses is just doing his best and he's trying to protect his children. And when he lost his child, it's what do you expect? You know what I mean?
Right.
It's like they don't really justify the whole Ramses is a bad guy thing. You're almost sort of sympathetic to Ramses at that point, and Noah's just kind of a douche because he sees miracles. He literally sits down and talks to God, and he's like, yeah, I don't agree with you. Like, what's your problem, man? Like, what's your problem? I'm like, come on! Now, here's the worst part. This being a Hollywood movie, what would your guess be to how they portrayed God?
That's a good question. Morgan Freeman?
No. Lindsay?
That was actually going to be my guess, was Morgan Freeman. But other than that, I don't know.
Think Hollywood movie.
Well...
Because every time they portray God, it's always in a weird way. Like a confusing way. Like, why was God like that? Like, they could have just had a cloud that never spoke, and you could just see Moses standing there like, oh, I understand. You know what I mean? Like, that could have been what they do, but no, Noah literally sits down, Moses literally sits down and has conversations with God, who's portrayed as a little kid.
Of course he is.
A petulant piece of crap little kid. Like, there's a moment where Moses is like, well, why do you want to prove anything to the Pharaoh? Because they're all getting screwed over. He's like, the Egyptians understand everything's getting worse. He's like, no, they need to let him go. They need to understand that I am God. And he's like, come on, man, you gotta take it easy on them. They don't understand. These are people I lived with and that sort of thing. I understand the sort of sympathy thing. Mm-hmm. But no, petulant little kid God literally gets pissed off and he goes, no, Pharaoh thinks he's a god. I want him kneeling down and worshiping me. Like, angrily, like, he needs to kneel down and worship me. He thinks he's a god. And I was like, really? Really? Petulant child god is apparently what we get now? Like, he's just unhappy that Pharaoh thinks he's a god?
Yeah.
Because Ramses doesn't even die in the biblical story, so why would God be so petulant? If God cared so much about whether or not Ramses was thinking he's a god, he just kill him. Yeah. It's like, well, screw it. There you go. And then they make God sound out to be like a terrible, like, ethereal being or whatever, because he kills all the firstborn of Egypt.
Right.
It's like, why would your God do such a thing? And Moses is like, well, I don't know. I told you not to do this. It's out of my hands. I can't control the situation. God's just going to do what he wants to. It's like he's basically the only role Moses has is to sort of warn Pharaoh and be like, look, this has nothing to do with us. This is out of my control. Crap is going to happen. You got to let my people go.
Well, that's almost a decent approach. I mean, you go to Pharaoh. Huh?
Almost. Like I said, it's done better than the Noah movie. It's still not great.
Right. I mean, if you go into Pharaoh and you're saying, look, our God says, let us go. And
He's
if
like,
you
it's not
don't,
gonna get good for you.
crap is going to happen. And I can't stop it. The only person who can stop it is you by letting us go.
He's like, I warned... I mean, if I were Moses at that time, I'd show up every time after each plague meal, like, look, I warned you, it's gonna keep happening. Show up later. Come on, man. I told you this was gonna happen.
Exactly.
Just understand the crap is hitting the fan. They're pulling off these religious movies terrible. And it's not that I really care. I mean, whatever my faith happens to be has no effect on this sort of thing.
Right.
But it's like Hollywood doesn't understand, and then they try and do it in some weird artsy-fartsy way. If you're doing something as contentious as religion, you gotta get it right.
Yeah.
Like
you can't screw around with it.
Before Exodus even came out, Christian Bale was quoted as saying that Moses came across to him as a schizophrenic.
Of course he did.
And I was like, these are the people you've got making your movie. These are the people. You can't have any respect for the source material. Like, I could care less if somebody tried to do a new interpretation of Tolkien's work.
Right.
Like, I would just think it's stupid and not care. You're dealing with something that's deeply personal to people. Be really careful.
Well, religion is such a touchy subject, and when you move into religion as entertainment, you're treading on some toes there.
But it's like a lot of these religious movies have done super awesome.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden Hollywood's like, yeah, we'll do a bunch of religious movies. And then they do them badly. And they're like, see, nobody wants to see religious movies anymore. It's like, that's because you do it wrong.
That's because you're screwing it up.
That's not the point. Like, what's his name went out and did that Bible series on History Channel. And it just blew up. I mean, they earned so much money off of that thing.
The one with Ben Kingsley? Is that the one you're talking about? Where he played Potiphar?
I don't think so. But they did a Bible series. What's his name? Anyway, he did Kevin Sorbo did this religious movie, cost him like $20,000 and earned like millions. And everyone's like, ooh, religious movies are really in. I was like, yeah, because if you get the movie right, if you get a message and it's somewhat heartwarming, then whatever. Like, people will go out and criticize, like, well, this is a terrible movie. But that's not the point. People want something that's encouraging and heartwarming, especially if you attach it to religion. You could blow up in the market, but you can't pull it off. You keep thinking, well, we got to make it artsy and kind of one of our things.
Yeah, see, that's not what...
You can't put an atheist in charge of a religious movie. It's a mistake.
Yeah, exactly. And you were saying Kevin Sorbo did this thing. You know, that's where people get it wrong. They don't want to see an artsy religious movie. They want to see a religious movie that respects their beliefs and respects the material.
Like, ooh, that's boring. But if Hollywood made movies that made them money, because Hollywood has been in the dumps for the past while. You know what saved Hollywood?
What's that?
Superhero movies.
Yes, you're right.
Because Hollywood has been dumping in the last while. A lot of their movies have just, what was it, 2-3 years ago, it's almost like across the board Hollywood was in the red. Like, they couldn't make movies across the board unless they were the big epic movies.
Right. And
make any money, because nobody wanted to see the movies that made you feel depressed and then want to shoot yourself afterwards.
And they wondered why.
It's like, wow, that was such a dark interpretation of the human condition. I don't feel good about life anymore.
You know, that's the thing. It's like, I've seen some really good movies that were very dark.
So have I.
And the thing is that there's nothing wrong with making that kind of movie, but it has no replay value. I don't want to own that movie. I don't want to watch it again. Once was enough.
Despite the fact we've been debating a lot, Lindsay, do you want to chat about anything you want to, or insert yourself into this conversation?
No, I've just been listening. It's like I go to say something and I feel like I keep interrupting you guys. So
No, go ahead.
Interrupt. Go ahead.
I don't know.
Inspire us.
I don't know. I have a weird taste of movies sometimes because I really like the really, really terribly done, over-the-top cheesy movies. Like, I guess I could name off my movie collection. I have, like, the Catwoman, the really terrible Catwoman.
That's so bad.
It's so bad. Yeah. And then I have, like, Anacondas and the really bad Batman and Robin. And then
Anacondas is actually decent.
Yeah.
Batman and Robin is terrible. Can I actually tell you something I heard about that Catwoman movie?
Go ahead.
I don't know if you talked about it, or I saw it on a thing because somebody was talking about it, but literally the CGI was going to be really difficult to do, and they wanted to do a lot of it because this is the first sort of big, like, female superhero
Right.
that they were trying to pull off. So they wanted her to have an excessive amount of makeup on to make the CGI better, easier to make. Because it's easier when the person looks sort of plastic and overly make-upped.
Okay.
So that was the catalyst for making the story about Catwoman fighting against an evil makeup corporation.
Yeah, that was so stupid. It's like literally her whole thing is she's fighting against an evil makeup corporation that has a cream that actually ages people.
Like, because people want that.
Yeah, like it's supposed to be an anti-aging cream, but it's actually something that, like, destroys your skin or something over time.
What a stupid plan. It's like, hey, you guys, I've got a plan. I'm going to make a cure for cancer that actually gives people cancer.
Exactly.
And the other people in the room are like, you're psychotic. Why would people buy this? Because it's evil. Well, no, you don't understand. Nobody's going to buy the cancer cure that gives people cancer. But we're going to release it and everybody's going to get cancer. No, you don't understand. Nobody's going to buy this product.
Exactly.
The thing is that
but people don't
you're going to kill off your customer base.
And the guy's still in the corner, like, evilly laughing and, like, steepling his hands. He's like, "Mwahaha." And it's like, dude, this guy's stupid. Why are we paying him to invent things that just cause problems?
Yeah.
Like, nobody's going to buy our product. Like, the first guy gets cancer, and they're like, well, this gets cancer. Like, don't they know that there's FCC regulations? Or what is it? It's not FCC. The group that actually has to, the U.S. Medical Board, that they actually have to test the products and stuff. The FDA.
Yeah.
Like, don't they understand that the FDA is going to be like, yeah, we gave it to a guy and he got cancer, so no?
Yeah.
They're like, no, we're just going to start putting it on shelves. Yeah, it doesn't have FDA approval, so no.
You'll have to market it as an herbal remedy, and then you can go past FCC
just
regs.
be like, it's all natural.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's all natural. It's got it's got all natural plants in it, and then you're like, isn't poison ivy natural? And that's not good for you. Why is everything all natural supposed to be good for me?
I know.
Like,
it's so bad.
Isn't opium a natural, from the opium plant?
Yeah.
Isn't that natural? And that's not really good for me. Well, so you're telling me everything that's natural is good for me? Yeah. Yeah, everything's natural. Everything's good for you.
That actually...
I read it recently in a New York magazine.
Yeah, I read it recently. If you take too many electrolytes, it'll make you say, no, you can't take enough electrolytes. You have to take more electrolytes. No, I read it. I heard it on NPR that it's bad for you. There's
I seriously know people who talk like that too, and they do that, like, list thing at the end and everything. It's so bad.
That was a skit on Portlandia where this house was being haunted by hipster
ghosts
who haunted you by trying to quote things and tell you that what you're doing is wrong. Like literally the lady is sitting on the floor and she's like, don't you know that sitting's bad for you? I heard this thing on NPR where human beings weren't meant to sit. You shouldn't sit. Sitting's bad for you. And she starts freaking out. She gets up and runs. And then the guy's like, yeah, standing's bad for you too. Like, you're not supposed to do that. I read that in the New York Times.
Yeah, it's
That's so dumb.
stupid.
Well, that's the hipster crowd. Everything's bad for you. I heard it somewhere. You're not supposed to be doing that. And literally, the two ghosts got in an argument over whether or not electrolytes were good for you, because one was saying you shouldn't have any. The other was saying you can't have enough.
Actually, I had a discussion with my mother-in-law this weekend about gluten, because there's this huge thing about people getting going on gluten-free diets and stuff. And I found so many articles that were saying things like, literally, if you have an allergy to wheat or you have celiac disease, that is the only time a gluten-free diet is going to help you.
Yeah, but everyone's like, I've been taking gluten and I feel so good right now.
I know.
They literally joked about it on, I believe it was South Park, where suddenly gluten became like something that gives you cancer. And everybody started banning it all over the place. And this scientist got up and he's like, look, gluten's not terrible for you. I don't know what you guys are doing. Look, I have this vial with pure gluten in it. He's like, well, why don't you eat it? He's like, well, it's just gluten. I'm saying it's not bad for you. Why don't you put it in your body? He's like, okay. He eats it and he literally melts like from Indiana Jones. The guy starts melting and everyone's like, oh my gosh, there's gluten. It's everywhere. They're like, I don't know what to do anymore.
Oh, man.
We've been having gluten forever. All of a sudden, it's the worst possible thing in your diet. To sort of get Lindsay heavily into the discussion, unless she has a topic she really wants to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
I have something I can ask her about.
Okay, go ahead.
It'll be more like me leading her to
rant?
To discuss the topic. Yeah, to rant. There was, Steam is making something called a Steam Box, right? It's a Steam operating system, and it's basically just a computer inside of like this little box. It's sort of like a console. So you can operate Steam in their operating system inside this like little PC. Steam has come out and said, well, we're not trying to compete with the console market. We're not trying to compete with PlayStation or Microsoft. When clearly they're trying to make something that goes on your television, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that sounds like they are.
Now, what makes people want to play consoles more than PCs?
Ease of use is one of them. I mean, you don't have to figure them out. You turn them on and they work. You don't.
Right. Every game's built and meant to be worked and used to function with that console, regardless. Like every game's been programmed to work with that console.
Right.
So Steam has to understand that if they're directly competing with the console market, which they are, they're trying to compete with a group of people who, in a way where they already don't like you're creating something that's not going to work with everything. So why would they move over when the majority of console users prefer ease of use, prefer to know that when they put a game into their console that's going to work anyway?
Right.
But then you hear a lot of people go, oh, well, it's higher resolution, the graphics are better, this, and this. First of all, the cheapest end version, which one of the early biggest mistakes that PS3 did was what?
Price.
Shoot the No, 360 did it too. They had like 4 different versions right up.
Oh, okay.
Like, who cares about 4 different versions of the console?
You should honestly just make a single version and then later on make special editions so the people that are like collectors or something will buy that one too.
Mm-hmm.
You know how many versions of the Steam box there are?
Like 6?
15.
15?
Oh, wow.
And they're all made from different companies, like Asus or whoever, and they're all sort of developed in different ways, and you have a different gamut of pricing. I saw from $600 to like $5,000. So they all have
Wow.
different capabilities. So when you're trying to get into a console market, immediately you go, well, aren't these people sort of more interested in ease of use? I could just sit down and play it whenever I want to. Isn't 15 different versions going to confuse the crap out of everybody that wants to play it?
Yeah.
Yep.
Like, which one do I want? Can I play Half-Life on this? Can I play Half-Life
And
on
you
this?
can only play
Well, here's
Half-Life
the
on
other-
half of them?
Well, that's the thing, though. You don't know for sure if it's going to work because you have to go through the stat system.
Right.
So there's no convenience involved in the stupid thing. Here's another thing. When you buy stuff on Steam, you own it.
Right.
Console gamers like to buy stuff, and if they don't like it, then they sell it off.
Right.
Or they give it to a friend, or whatever. You buy stuff on Steam, you own it specifically. You can't just like, oh, well, I don't like this game anymore, I'm going to get rid of it. Like, you own it now. It's yours.
Yep.
There's no trading or sharing or anything. It's yours. So they're
Which is something
literally...
I've actually never super liked about Steam, because I prefer consoles, and I don't have a nice enough computer, so it's like I've always gone the way of game systems.
You know, that would be an interesting way to go for PCs and Steam and stuff. If you could actually trade your Steam games.
You can do something where you could give people Steam games, or I don't know what it is, but it doesn't work the way you would hope it would.
Well,
at any rate, another big issue with the whole thing is the argument that they're making is these are going to run better than your Xbox Ones or your PS4s. Well, the lower end systems that they're selling for like $600 are not better than your lower end. They're slightly worse than the Xbox One and the PS4. So that argument is mute. Not only that, but if people really cared about graphics and really cared about resolution, you know what they would do?
Get a PC.
Play it on their computer.
They get a PC anyway. Why would they go through the Steam box?
There's no reason to.
Why would they care? Not only that, but when you buy a game, you don't know for sure if it's going to work in the thing. And they're trying to enter into a market that naturally prefers consoles because of ease of use, and they know that they can play it, and it's not an issue, and it's not that big a deal, the graphics and stuff, because they want to play a console that works all of the time. I don't think that they know what they're doing.
It doesn't
Valve,
sound like
in
they
trying
are.
to make this thing.
You know what I would do if I was them is make one box that can kind of play everything, but do what they do for some of the other systems and have it be a, a live stream, like game that you just basically play from your own Steam account of your own games that you already have, but they're just convertible so that you can just put it up on the screen and use a controller.
So it's a streaming service rather than anything else. That's what PlayStation made with the PlayStation Now, and you can stream pretty much all PS3 games on that thing. It only costs like $100, and you stick it in. It's basically having like a cheap. See, here's the problem though. How much is that thing going to cost?
Yeah. Thing is that
Well, you could all, I mean, for ease of use or whatever, like for me, I do play my, I play my Steam games or something on my big screen TV because I just use an HDMI cable. I run a program where I can convert my games into using a controller. So I use my PlayStation 3 controller because I prefer PlayStation controllers because my hands are small. But I use the controller. So I basically have what they already want to sell me. So why would I spend the money for it?
I don't know. So you could play anything. See, like you made the comment, I would make it so that you could play anything you wanted to on the thing and then stream it in. Well, that's the problem, though. They would have to have really awesome, expensive box. And
they'd have to have good servers, too. It wouldn't be cheap.
Yeah, for it to play all PC games, that thing, like the box itself, would have to cost like $5,000, and that's a luxury item at that point.
Yeah. So, I mean, you might as well just keep your PC, HDMI cable it up, and do what I'm doing with just having a controller hook up to your system and use it that way.
Because I don't think Steam has thought this through, or Valve has thought this through, and they're like, I think they figure that they can compete when they're not really competing, despite the fact they're directly competing with the console.
Well, the other
market.
thing is,
And I don't think they understand.
their box would have to
what
have
they're
multiple
getting into.
types of controllers, too, to be able to play all the games.
Well, have you seen the Steam controller? Even just the redesigned new one? It looks terrible.
Because
It looks like a piece of crap. Like, Google it, but like where you put your thumb, like it originally didn't have a joystick, and then they added one. But they have like this weird circle goo pad that you push, and it reads where your thumb hits.
they're calling it the owl.
Yeah, and it's like this big circle thing, and it's like a rubbery pad, and you push your thumb around in it, and it reads where your thumb is. And it can function somewhat like a D-pad. It can function somewhat like a joystick. Despite the fact that didn't seem to work, and their newest version added a joystick. Because they're like, we think people are probably going to want a joystick, though.
Yeah. See,
It looks weird.
the thing is that, there are some Steam games out there that can't use the controller. You have to have the keyboard and mouse set up. So you wouldn't actually be able to play those
Right, but
games.
then you have to have that whole awkward setup with it on your lap and whatnot. What's up, Lindsay?
I just use the USB mouse and keyboard, and I put it next to me. I mean, like I said, I pretty much hook the computer right up, and then I'm wireless for everything. If I can use the controller for the game, I do. If not, I use like a little, like a TV dinner stand or something in front of me, and then me and Rhett play, like Soulstorms or something on there, and I still get the big screen experience.
You've been playing Soulstorm in on your big TV?
I haven't this week, but I normally do, yeah. Just because of roommate setting and whatnot.
Well, we gotta...
Yeah, she comes in and asks weird questions. And...
Yeah.
Well, we gotta wrap this up.
Basically.
It's like that... No, it's like that... she has to get involved in everything. So even though she doesn't care what you're doing, she walks in and is like, "Are you guys playing a video game? What video game is that?" It's like, well, don't ask questions that are obvious, because clearly we're sitting here playing a video game.
Yeah.
And then you answer the question, and then it's asked for confirmation.
Yeah. It's like, yeah, it looks like it.
It's okay.
Usually
I'm getting used to it.
See,
usually I get snarky when people ask obvious questions. It's like, are you playing a video game right now? No, actually. I'm watching a movie of little guys running around on a screen and
See,
other things.
my kids, when they ask me obvious questions like that, like, "Are you having lunch?" and I'm sitting there with the sandwich halfway to my mouth, I look at them and say, "No, right now I'm plotting the downfall of the free world," or something like that. And they're like, "No, you're eating lunch." Like,
I'm trying to reform this sandwich from my stomach. I'm reverse lunching
exactly.
it.
Anyway, we got to wrap this up. So, who would win, Frank Martin or Mad Max?
Describe these people so Lindsay can
Okay,
get
Frank.
involved.
Mad Max.
What was Mad Max? You just go with Mad Max?
Just go ahead with your
Okay.
description.
Frank Martin is the transporter. He is a former special ops soldier.
You ever see The Transporter?
Yeah, I've seen all of them. That actor is good for like one thing owner. Only
To look
angry
and tear his
all the
shirt off.
time, tear his shirt off, and kick doors and apparently Asians across the room.
Well,
The first Transporter was good. It's when you got to the second Transporter where he was able to pick the bomb off of the bottom of the car from the crane that was hanging from the off in the construction site. Remember that? Like he did, Lindsay?
Yeah.
Remember that? He did a jump, and he spun the car midair and pulled the bomb off the bottom of his car using a crane hook.
Yeah,
It was
it's
the most
pretty
ridiculous action thing I'd ever seen. Like, the first Transporter was cool and actiony, and it was more realistic, at least more
the
realistic.
following ones.
Yeah.
The next ones just got ridiculous.
And the third one, instead of
I
him
kind of
being
accept
like...
that those movies just get cheesy.
The third one, he's driving around some kid.
Yeah.
Anyway.
He's literally transporting a guy.
And then Mad Max, obviously, from the Mad Max series. his real name is Max Rockatansky. That name just automatically should, be an A-bomb here and win him the thing. I mean, that's better than Frank Martin. But he is a former crazy police officer that had his family killed by freaks, and then he goes on a rampage and ends up out in the desert driving a rig full of sand, and then in the Thunderdome, and it was great.
I think what gives Mad Max the edge in most fights is he's kind of a nutcase.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I was like, the thing is, he's crazy.
He's kind of a nutcase dealing with nutcases.
And it's not like rubber room nutcase. It's like, I think I can jump that ravine in my car sort of nutcase. Like, he does the ridiculous things, and he's like, well, my family's dead, so I'm just gonna try. You know what I mean? It's like he'll have a fist fight on the back of a moving vehicle and hang off of the back of it, and he's like, I don't care. He's like, I could fight this giant guy that's controlled by a little midget. It doesn't matter.
Something like that is way more dangerous.
Yeah, because it's almost fearless, like recklessness.
Yeah. Yep. He has a certain amount of...
Like, he makes decisions that aren't good for
I don't care what's going to happen to me because it doesn't matter.
Yeah, Frank actually wants to live. So he might just get to a point.
Yes, he is.
Awesome.
No, he is awesome, but I think his biggest weakness is, like, get an attractive woman.
Yeah. Survival, getting hooked up. Whereas Mad Max doesn't even seem to be very much swayed by women.
Not really.
Yeah.
Yeah, he doesn't seem to care. He's like, no, I just want my gas or whatever. Get out of here.
Well, the thing is that in the situation where Mad Max is, a pretty face will kill you.
Yeah. And I think he's jaded to the whole thing since his wife died.
Because, sure, he may look at a pretty girl, but he's probably thinking, now, if she comes over towards me, I'm going to stick the knife here. Whereas Frank Martin is sitting there thinking, can I buy you a drink?
Frank Martin is super dangerous. I don't know. What's up, Lindsay?
I just think that it easily goes to Mad Max. Just because, I don't know. He's so much crazier, and
Crazy wins the fight.
Yeah, I think Frank is smart and cunning, and he might, plant a bomb or something, or figure something out so that he's maybe not in as much danger, but it's like, Max just doesn't care.
Yeah, Frank does a lot of crazy stuff, and Max is like, it's like the situation where Frank's doing stuff, and he's clever, and he outmaneuvers him, and then he sees Max, like, jump off a 2-story building to land.
There you go.
Yeah, exactly.
He's like, I didn't think the idiot would do that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The problem is everybody else's actions are planned when Frank fights. Like, he kind of anticipates it, and that's how he's such a good fighter. And everything.
He is meticulous in his life and in his planning. I mean, he goes through all those rules and stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, the gloves and everything.
And Max would break those rules.
Max is literally the unmeticulous, unstructured versus the structured individual.
Which is why it's such a dangerous combination for him.
Yeah, I think you swayed me. That would be the Mad Max. I put my vote in Mad Max unless Jason wants to sway this another direction.
No, the thing is that while Frank Martin is smart and dangerous, I think he has cunning going for him. But the thing is that Mad Max is crazy, he's smart, he's cunning, and he's crazy. And I know I said that twice, but, he has to be.
He's double
crazy. He has
crazy.
to be to survive in that world.
Two crazy is better than one crazy. I am so psyched for the new Mad Max. Can I just tell you
awesome.
that?
Yeah, what's the name of that actor who's playing him? It's basically Bane, but I don't know what his actual name is.
Now, it's Bane and the clone of Jean-Luc Picard.
And the clone of Jean-Luc Picard?
Well...
Yeah, do you ever see Star Trek Nemesis?
Yeah.
That was the guy that played Bane. He was just a skinny younger version.
Hey.
I kid you not, it was him.
I'll have to look at that again.
he played the clone of Jean-Luc Picard that the Romulans made to try and screw him for some reason.
Right.
Yeah, that was
interesting.
Same guy.
I'll have to look at that again. Anyway, Mad Max wins it, moves
he's a
on.
pretty attractive guy.
What was that, Lindsay?
What's that, Lindsay?
I just said I like that actor. He's an attractive fella, and he'll play a really interesting role. Sing him as Bane, and then
I can hook you guys up if you need.
Yeah, right. But yeah, seeing him.
Yeah, right. Like it wouldn't happen, or yeah, right.
Hook me up tonight.
I don't want.
You wouldn't do it, but like you could try.
I'm just saying the simple comment that he's an attractive guy. That's all.
I have a good set of news for you that you'd be excited about. Specifically, Lindsay.
It better not be about Gambit.
No, this is better. This is better. So, Deadline is reporting, in addition to releasing Ghostbusters movie starring a team of women, which even Lindsay thought was stupid.
Yeah, that's
Sony will also be making one starring specifically a bunch of men. Why they can't make one movie starring both groups of men and women, I don't understand. But there's going to be an all-women movie, and apparently a Ghostbusters movie that's all men. Now, here's the kicker. Just in case you ever want... the guy goes on to say, just in case you ever wanted to see what it would be like if some guys wanted to bust some ghosts for a change. At any rate, this movie will reportedly be a male-driven, action-centric comedy that will counterpart to another film starring... which will counterpart to the all-female team. Now, listen to the directors and the people involved. The production team, which also includes Winter Soldier's directors. I'm like,
maybe.
That's not bad.
Okay.
Iron Man 3's writer. Yeah, Iron Man 3 wasn't bad.
Wasn't great.
It had some problems, but it wasn't bad. The directors of Winter Soldier.
Yeah, that's true. That is encouraging.
Now, here's the best part. With a producer of Mr. Channing Tatum. Who is going to be the star of the movie?
Man. Of course, I was waiting for it. I was like, it's not about Gambit, is it? But I was like, of course, it's about that actor that I hate.
So not only is Winter Soldier's directors, Iron Man 3's writers, and Channing Tatum is the producer, who's also going to be starring in the movie, we're going to have a bro comedy with guys busting ghosts and bro-fisting each other.
That's the thing. That's what it's going to be. If he's starring in the movie, that is what it's going to be.
That's disappointing.
Did you know Channing Tatum used to be a stripper?
Yeah, I do.
That's what he used to do, and that's where they found him. That's why he did Magic Mike.
It's about a movie about strippers. Anyway.
Oh, man. You should be excited. We're getting an all-male Ghostbuster bro Channing Tatum movie. And they're probably going to make it decent, and you're going to get pissed off because of it.
This is the sound of me vomiting. Ugh.
Anyway, next week we'll have RoboCop versus Rambo. So we'll.
That's an argument to stick around.
Yes, it is.
People.
Anything to leave the people with Rhett.
No matter what, let's all just get Channing Tatum busting ghosts in a thong. Let's get this.
You know he's going to rip off his shirt at some point during that show, right?
Oh,
he will.
Oh, yeah, like he'll get like slime all over him, and he'll have to stop.
Got to take off the shirt. It's all slimy.
He will. He will.
You know what they should do? Just combine them all. So it's like he's out there busting ghosts, and he's wearing a thong, and he's all like, "Oh, I got my shirt and stuff," and then he's like, "Oh, what's this? I can add energy to cars and stuff." Man,
no.
Hey, look, is that a guy with claws? Can you help me bust these ghosts? Seth Rogen with claws?
Seth Rogen should be slapped multiple times.
Seth Rogen is Wolverine because he's hairy enough. Who's the other dude that's always with him?
James Franco.
James Franco. Since James Franco's really annoying, make
there
him
you go.
Cyclops.
Those guys are so irritating. In all their movies, I swear, they're just huge potheads with way too much money, and they're just producing stupid movies that a bunch of dumb college students are seeing.
Hey, guess what? They're successful. some of the most successful people in the world are the dumbest, most idiotic people that you'll ever run into. Case in point.
PewDiePie. Yep. Exactly.
You knew I was getting there.
Yeah, I was like, yeah, he's
And
an
on
idiot.
that note, Lindsay, do you have anything to leave us with?
I thought Rhett's was sufficient. Why do I have to have
Because you're on the show.
awesome statements?
Gambit, ghost catching, thong wearing.
Yeah. You know, they could always, like, make it overkill and just put, like, every, quote-unquote, like, attractive guy or something that girls like in there.
Oh, so the guy that played Bane, he'll be in there, because Lindsay's got...
Yeah, there you go.
That.
I just said he is attractive.
They'll probably try to put
they'll probably-
you guys are getting
Brad
married now.
Pitt
This
in
is the
there.
thing.
How about Chris Pratt? And then, you know, you put, like, Chris Hemsworth
Oh, there
in
you
there.
go,
I
yeah.
just like Chris Pratt, but...
You like guys with the name Chris.
No!
Chris
Don't
Pratt is
don't
gonna be
ever
in
say
there.
that to me.
You know what's weird, though? Channing Tatum pitched the movie, the Ghostbuster movie, as a buddy Ghostbuster thing with him and Chris Pratt. That's how he pitched the movie.
Oh, boy.
So we could very well see Chris Pratt and Channing Tatum catching ghosts, bro-fisting, taking their shirts off.
And on that disturbing note...
I like Chris Pratt, not because of really anything other than that he pulls off a really funny guy really well. I think
It's
he
because
did
he's originally a comedian.
Yeah, I think he did a pretty good Star-Lord. I actually would have toned down the ridiculousness of the Star-Lord.
Goofiness.
Yeah, because he wasn't that goofy in the comics. He just wasn't.
Well, with that
Anyways,
disturbing image in your minds, we're going to end the show here and
Keep talking and make it
Yeah.
hard for Jason to end the podcast.
see you next time.
Bye.
Later.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of the Distracted Gamers podcast. If you like the show, follow Rhett and Jason, the world's two most lethally stupid internet personalities on Twitter @DG Podcast, or check them out at www.thedistractedgamers.com. If you loved or hated what you've heard here, email them at thedistractedgamers.blogspot.com and share your feelings. Not that Jason will care, since he hasn't any, of course.